Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Robert Potter from The Promise Revealed, UAT.com. And I'm happy to bring on today my friend Raymond Keller. Most people who follow me or follow Raymond now, I hope he's gathering a big following, aficionado of fans. He does not have a website. He works very hard. And of course, we have a 6-book special on my website. If you want to purchase all of his books for $150, you get free shipping to anywhere in the United States. Which is runs about $27, so you get a little discount there. I want to thank you. If you're the Inner Circle member, you get a little bit more. And I want to thank you all for tuning in and following to the new developments on The Promise Revealed. And a lot of my intuition in my life has been revolved around following and learning about the Ascended Masters and the truth of God, and of course, especially Jesus Christ. And Raymond, for many people who don't know, has released a new book called The Gospel of Thomas. And the introduction is on my website. And that's all I can reveal right now. I released a small snippet of the youth gospel of Jesus. And we're going to have this published pretty soon. It'll be available. And it's going to be a very special book. And right now, we're going to begin a series with Raymond. I'm going to let him do PowerPoints, possibly longer PowerPoints for some PowerPoints he has on each book, and some as he produces information. We'll be sharing this. We'll have an archive on the Raymond Keller blog section, and you can also ask questions here on Cosmic Rob and Ray's mailbag. We haven't had too much response there for some reason, but we will answer questions, and possibly if we can get enough followers, we may do a live show at some point. I'm not that expert on it. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Raymond Keller. I'm going to be stepping out. I'm going to be muted, and he's going to take this entire show on his own. Thank you so much, Raymond.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks for the opportunity.
My pleasure, Cos.
Well, insofar as we've already discussed the latest book, number 6, Flying Saucers and the Venus Legacy, I'd like to discuss some of the other books in this series. So today we thought we would start with Lady Columba's Venus Adventures. So come with me now on a journey with Lady Columba. Okay, we're going to go from the current slide. Okay, this was just published last year by Headline Books, which is located in Terra Alta, West Virginia, which is not very far from my home. It's on the border of Maryland in Garrett, where Garrett County is, but it's Preston County on the West Virginia side. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. This is a very interesting book. Information recovered from the 1950s, 60s, and even before. Provided by Lady Columba, Annabel Krebs. So we look at the cosmic duo of Lady Columba. You see in the bottom circle insert from Pennsylvania, Greensburg, Pennsylvania, and cosmonaut Alexander Kodachev on the roof from the Soviet Union set aside their Cold War differences to explore the vast regions of outer space together. So in some ways, the book is a kind of romance. So it's definitely different from the typical UFO book. Okay, this is The Great Soul by Annabel Krebs. This is a painting by her that can be seen in the University of Arizona at Tucson's library in the Special Collections Department. While on Earth, Columba maintained that following her death, Venusians would transport her genetic essence, or DNA, to their Clarion base on the far side of the moon. where it would be reconstituted into a new body and reanimated with the infusion of her consciousness that had previously been downloaded into a special computer. She would then become a near immortal avatar. One of the things that that Lady Columba taught, that was also a teaching of the Buddha, is that what you think you can become, what you feel you attract, and what you imagine you create. So what is remarkable about her life is that she wrote that the portals to supernatural powers and access to them are flung open, and she literally lived that. So she was able to manifest many wonderful things in her life. Back in the late 1950s, when she began her journey, she was living in the area of Joshua Tree in Southern California, and was taken for a journey aboard a flying saucer to an island, invisible floating island off in the Pacific Ocean. And Lady Columba was allowed to see into the future where humankind would live on such floating islands, but out over the ocean. All kind of amazing technology in these books are explained. This is the same kind of technology that exists on other planets. Can you imagine a world like the Jetsons, where the surface was unseen and not thought about except by scientists and industrialists? Floating forests and croplands could be assembled in Earth habitats and provide resources for a burgeoning population. On Venus, sky ships cruise between flying city-states like dotted jewels in the glowing heavens. Over time, these flying habitats could be used to alter the planetary temperature and shield the desolate lands below. This is like a city over the South Pole of Venus. Because some might remember the movie from 1955 called This Island Earth. Well, the extraterrestrial that Anna Lee met aboard the ship, the mothership Isis, the communication officer named Vorton, kind of looked like that guy from the movie, Jeff Morrow, who played Exeter in the movie This Island Earth. And you'll be able to see drawings that she made of him and others aboard the ship and aboard the various space platforms and this Moon Base Clarion, which is on the far side of the moon. Okay, of course, this is in the late 1950s, and but Annabel launches her career as a cosmonaut, exploring outer space with the Venusians and other inhabitants of our solar system and beyond in the Confederation of Galactic Confederation of Light. So worldwide, there are thousands of reports of unidentified submarine objects. Young Annabel learns that Venusian spaceships can also operate in a submersible mode. So here we see a typical Adamski-class scout ship. It also has the capability of becoming a submersible craft. So it's kind of like that flying sub that that we saw on the TV show, the Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. So Lady Columba, she regretted the absence of a communal presence in contemporary society, seeing the paradisical way that the extraterrestrials lived, that they shared and cooperated with one another and didn't neglect their children. So she wanted our children also to have a sense of belonging. If they had a higher allegiance to the collective good, as the Venusians did, perhaps they wouldn't get into so much trouble with criminal and gang activities. There's a lot of good advice from Lady Columba, Annabel Krebs, i.e. Annabel Krebs, in all of these books. There's always been speculation since Jules Verne wrote that book, First Men in the Moon, Journey to the Moon and so forth, speculations about alien bases on the moon, and it's particularly on the far side of the moon, have persisted throughout the decades of the 1950s and the 1960s. This is from a Dick Tracy comic strip about the amazing moon girl, and little did anyone realize that the moon really is inhabited and that there are amazing beings with such supernatural powers that exist on the moon. This is from the movie Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, and it illustrates the truth about time travelers and cloaked spaceships. So there's a lot of stuff in the science fiction movies that really reflect the reality of what's going on. Wharton explained to Lady Columba that Venusian technologies allow for light rays to be bent around his spacecraft, giving only the appearance of a dematerialization. So we have remat and demat, dematerialization and rematerialization. The ship, meanwhile, has never left our material universe. Lady Columba noticed that the Venusians and other extraterrestrials paid a lot of attention to the aura, and she learned a lot about the aura. And of course, some metaphysicians here on Earth have experimented and researched the aura as well. Some might call it a human atmosphere. Walter John Kilmer was a medical doctor. And in the early 1900s, he was working at St. Thomas Hospital in London and conducted pioneering research into electrotherapy, where he continued investigations into the nature of the human atmosphere. The doctor was the first to employ glass slides or Kilner screens containing alcoholic solutions of variously colored dyes, including a blue coal tar dye called diacinon, in order to perceive electromagnetic radiation outside the normal spectrum of visible light as emanations of the human body. One trained in the proper use of these screens is able to perceive auric formations, such as the etheric double or the inner aura and outer aura, extending several inches from a patient's body. So there's a lot about the human aura and that kind of technology that would be of interest that is explored by Lady Columba as well, based on her visits and actual experience on the moon base. Both American and Soviet space planners expressed interest in militarizing the moon as a missile launch platform for nuclear strikes against each other, while Vorton informed Annabel that the militarization of the moon by space powers from Earth was a significant concern of the Venusians and other extraterrestrials that were living on bases on the moon. And those I explain and explore also in detail with photographs and documentation from NASA and other space agencies like from Russia and the European Union. Now, beginning in the late 1940s through the early 1960s, many different types of UFOs, unidentified flying objects, have been seen in our skies. Vorton explained to Lady Columba why UFOs come in all shapes and sizes and explained the purpose of various types of craft that are seen in our atmosphere. Vorton told Lady Columba that the Venusians and other ETs need some signs before they can commence with the long-awaited mass landings of flying saucers. But the question remains, if we build enough of them, will they come? To be politically correct, such signs should read, "Welcome, space friends," as the Venusian observation ranger Vorton so correctly noted in his dialogue with Lady Columba. Welcome, space friends. This is because women are on a totally equal basis with men in the planets of the Confederation of Light. Okay, this is a photo taken in 1967, thereabouts. And it's my friend Janet on the left and Ingrid Steckling from the George Adamski Foundation on the right, in front of the now famous portrait of the Venusian scout craft pilot Orthon. I think this is the only photo that actually shows Orthon in color, and it's published in my book. Okay, Lady Columba revealed a lot about Venus and the other planets, and revealed that Venus is the closest to a literal paradisical planet, a paradise planet. And just how it is a paradise planet is explained in detail about how they organize their society and the many advanced technologies that they use to promote the happiness of their people. This is a photo by NASA's Mars Global Surveyor probe that's of a massive monolith on the surface of Phobos. There's a lot of interesting things that have come out about Phobos. And for example, the Phobos 2 spacecraft that was sent from the Soviet Union back in 1987 actually took a photograph of a large, as it approached the Martian moon, the small Martian moon, right before the signal was lost, and the loss of the spacecraft imparted to some kind of impact. There was a huge 17-mile cylindrical shadow on the surface of Mars, right underneath the Phobos, that they couldn't explain, that looked like a huge mothership. Okay, this is from the jacket of the Dream of the Blue Turtles album. I hope, from the song, I hope the Russians love their children too from the 1980s. But we have to remember that when Lady Columba went to the moon and traveled with the Venusians and other friendly ETs, that this was in the peak of the Cold War, and that was a supreme issue to the extraterrestrials at that time, because not only would a potential nuclear war devastate the Earth, but it would affect the balance of life throughout the solar system and maybe beyond. So Lady Columba said that the Martian canals were real, and some of them were artificially constructed. And recent photos from various space probes on Mars indicate a lot of apparent structures of some kind, as well as the existence of water. This map of Mars was based upon telescopic observations produced by the Air Force in 1962 for use by NASA in planning the Mariner 4 flyby mission to the Red Planet. So if you notice the straight line linkages between the dark markings, you have to wonder if NASA and the Air Force knew something about Mars that they weren't telling us, but even back then in the early 1960s. Okay, as far as all of the planets in the solar system being inhabited and the moons of the different planets, this is something that all of the contactees have said since George Adamski. Of course, some of the life on these moons may not be indigenous to those orbs, but based on colonies that were established there. And even some of our ancestors knew about the existence of life on the moon and other worlds, like Dante Alighieri, the author of the Divine Comedy, and also Emanuel Swedenborg, who claimed that he took a trip to Venus and the other planets, and even wrote a book about it. This is from this is a plate from one of Dante's books, El Paradiso, the Paradise. On the way to Venus, his beloved Beatrice introduces the great Italian poet to the inhabitants of the moon before they went on to Venus. Apollo orbiters from the United States and the Zond probe from the Soviet Union have photographed a massive tower on the far side of the moon. And what's interesting there is that Lady Columba writes about this tower and its purpose and everything long before this probe was ever sent. So a lot of amazing stuff in here. This is actual artwork by Columba Krebs, Lady Columba. She sketches celestial aspects through cosmic evolution. That is the title of it. And this is an actual sketch from my Venus files for inclusion in the book. Okay, NASA must let the people know the moon is inhabited. There are three, the Buddha said that there are three things that cannot long be hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. Lady Columba said that on the moon, the Venusians, which had settled and originally established the moon base Clarion countless millennia ago, their descendants who grew up there have a kind of light blue complexion. And it's interesting because in the legends of many people, such as the Hindus, of the appearance of Lord Vishnu with the light blue complexion. So you have to wonder if there's some connection there. All of the dwarf planets in our solar system are smaller than Mercury, the smallest planet in the solar system. But many of these actually seem like potential abodes of life. There is all kinds of lights flashing in craters on Ceres that have been photographed. Pluto is now known to have an atmosphere. It's not as cold as people thought, and it also has hydrocarbons that are present, an abundance of ice and possibly an ocean underneath, and of course many serve as ideal locations for defensive bases, scientific experimentation, observation posts, radio relay stations, and mining operations on behalf of the Galactic Confederation. So as time goes on, we'll learn more about these mysterious smaller bodies or planetesimals that exist out there in space in our own solar system. Although I wouldn't classify Pluto. I don't think I would classify Pluto as a dwarf planet because it actually has 5 moons of its own. So I think I would have kept that one classified as a regular planet. Okay, Lady Columba also discussed life inside the interior of the Earth, that there were vast caverns in the inner Earth with civilizations, long lost civilizations on Earth that had gone underground, such as this depiction of Agartha, a name for the inner world. Also, Dr. Frank Strange's of the late Dr. Frank Strange's of Van Nuys, California, International Evangelism Crusades, wrote a lot and spoke a lot about these inner Earth civilizations. Okay, this is from a comic book, depicts somebody receiving a prize of an anti-gravitational belt. Well, Lady Columba noted that these things actually exist and that people can fly around in them with these controlled gravitational belts, just like superheroes in comic books. So I thought that was very interesting too. She describes all of that. So Mercury and the Moon have cratered rocky surfaces. Both are celestial bodies, and they have hard, crusty surfaces composed entirely of rock and pocked with craters. The craters are considered evidence of numerous meteorite strikes. The Moon is slightly larger than the planet Mercury. The Venusian informed Annabel that both were hollow and served as space colonies for advanced extraterrestrial civilizations. Okay, this is the Moon Girl. This is the Moon Girl, a female from Clarion, escorted Annabel to an Interplanetary Confederation conference on board a space platform called the Leviathan. And she wrote extensively about her attendance at that meeting. On board the Space Leviathan for the Interplanetary Conference, Annabel and Rowena pay close attention to the proceedings. Vorton introduces the first speaker, Commander Ora Raines, the one with the beret, seated next to him. So what I like about this picture is that this was made in the late 1950s, but it depicts a lot of hybrids and non-humanoid extraterrestrials. And of course, a lot of contactees weren't telling too much about these beings. Dr. Frank Stranges was, but the others were hesitant to do that at the time because there was a lot of fear about extraterrestrials. And if you look at science fiction movies from the time, you'll quickly understand why. Even Omnek Onek pointed that out, that she was disappointed about movies about Venus and Venusians and other planets in our solar system because they depicted all these terrifying creatures when really quite the opposite is true, that there are non-humanoid creatures, but they aren't all that terrifying, and they mean us well. Commander Raines explained how conflicting political and military powers on Maldek blew their planet apart in a nuclear war. And hopefully we can avoid the same fate. There's a lot of information in there about a planet that once existed between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter, the remnants of which formed the asteroid belt, and then others were blown out further into space. In the near future, Earthlings will join with our brothers and sisters of other planets in the peaceful exploration of outer space. Anuesh Ansari, a space pioneer, a female, said, "I believe space travel is an absolute necessity for the survival of the human race, for our future in space." On September 28th, 2019, William Guy, a passenger on a ferry off the coast of Beaufort, North Carolina in the Outer Banks, filmed these glowing UFOs moving at a high velocity in a northerly direction. A spokesperson for the Seymour Johnson Air Force Base just north of Beaufort told a local Fox News affiliate television station that no planes were in the area that day. Vorton said that their spacecraft are physical vehicles and that they glow due to the ionization of atmospheric particles surrounding their electrified hulls. So that's what you are looking at there. This is a sectional view of a Venusian scout ship, or Ventla, as it appeared in Leonard G. Cramp's groundbreaking UFO book, Space Gravity and the Flying Saucer, published in 1954. And stay tuned because I'm coming out with a UFO book myself explaining these things in detail that will be out in the beginning of the next year. But you can read some of that information on UFO propulsion on Rob's site as well. Okay. What would it take to foster cooperation rather than confrontation between the United States and the Soviet Union? Here's a statement that President Ronald Reagan made to President Mikhail Gorbachev at the 1985 Geneva Summit in Switzerland. "Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bond. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. But hopefully it won't come to that we approach the presence of extraterrestrials in our solar system with such a negative attitude of unification, but one of cooperation and a demonstration of worthiness to join such a confederation of planets. So the elites are building space arcs to escape the coming global destruction with Earth's axial shift. Our brothers and sisters of other worlds warn that this is a futile attempt, as mobs will storm the rocket launch sites before they ever have a chance to get off the ground. Annabelle took a peek at a parallel Earth that was slightly ahead of us in the timeline to predict what might happen on Earth in order to warn us so that we can avoid similar situations. Like in the comic books, for example, depict the destruction of the planet Krypton. Okay. It's no doubt that the extraterrestrials are worried about our entry into space. And if we bring any of our aggressions into outer space, they will defend their territory by any means possible. There was a lot of information about various programs. Project A119 in the United States and Project E9 in the former Soviet Union to actually launch and detonate nuclear missiles on the moon. And how these efforts were thwarted is explained by Lady Columba in these books. Okay, this is a scene depicted by the Russian animator and filmmaker Pavel Plashchentev of the lunar station, which provided citizens of the Soviet Union with a futuristic vision of a bustling construction site on the surface of the moon. So that they were obviously concerned, the Venusians and others, about our militarization of outer space. This is a photograph of Commander Asteria, also known as Gloria Lee, a civilian pilot and a stewardess as well, in Los Angeles, California, from her book, Why We Are Here, which was Paulo Verdes Estates, California, Cosmon Research Foundation, 1959. Okay, this is a photograph of a Japanese, or no, a Chinese space probe called the Chang'e 4 that transmitted messages back to the China National Space Administration from the far side of the moon without the help of the only satellite, Kuei-Kiao, and a phenomenon known as Lagrange points. For further details on how this works, you could read them in the book because it might be a little technical. Okay, this is a self-portrait made in 1961 by Lady Columba of her with her Russian friend, cosmonaut Alexander Kadachev, outside the perimeter of the moon base Clarion. So we see flying saucers, rocket ships, and space probes and other extraterrestrial vehicles in the painting. Okay. All right, this is a composite photo of mass cons, or areas of mass concentration, magnetic energy and gravity on the far side of the moon. And you see at the bottom of the bottom center is actually the south pole of the moon, where there is a lake. There's actually a frozen lake there as big as the island of Puerto Rico. So we know that there's water on the moon, extensive amounts of water on the moon, which have been documented by NASA, and there are settlements there. And you see the red dot, enhanced dot, there right above the South Polar region. Gravitational anomalies or mass cons were detected over the Freundlich-Sharonov impact basin on the far side of the moon. What it looks like on Moon Base Clarion, different kind of facilities that they have there for teaching children and so forth. There are many people from Earth who have visited Clarion and stayed there, have been invited there. Dr. Frank Strange's and many other leading lights in both theology and UFO circles believe that the appearance of flying saucers and the rise of missing persons cases may well be a fulfillment of a predicted rapture in Bible prophecies. So where do some of the 120,000 persons that disappear each year from just the United States alone go to? Some of them probably go up into space. So on a parallel Earth, scientists unraveled the mysteries of the quark universe, and unfortunately, it led to a war between future superpowers in an Earth year of 2063. And as I read all of Annabel's prophecies and her observations of this parallel future Earth, I thought of a song by REM, 1994 song, "It's the End of the World." It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. So we have a lot to worry about, I think, when they experimenting with the vast powers of the universe. This is a cartoon cranking up the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland, and we don't really know what we're dealing with, and we have to be very careful. While there are, of course, there are some benefits to scientific knowledge. Without the spiritual maturity to handle it, it could be weaponized, and there could be accidents, unfortunate accidents, such as depicted in this cartoon. So in many ways, this book is truly a message for our times. So on the parallel Earth, there were 3 days of darkness, and then the celestial hierarchy of light moved into position to help clear up areas of the Earth and make them rehabitable again for the now substantially decreased Earth population. So Lady Columba believed that the Earth, like Venus, could become a paradise for all, but there's some things that we have to do right now. We have to start acting now. And Venusians will help humankind to build a future by design. This is from, this painting is from the Venus Project. Okay, this is, you see on the right, furniture in George Jetson's apartment that reflected a space age future, but it was predicted, this kind of thing was predicted, cities and homes in the air, levitating furniture and every kind of convenience like in the Jetsons. And you could read about it in the book that Annabel completed her notes for this manuscript on the 6th of September, 1961. The Jetsons didn't come out on TV until the 23rd of September of 1962. So this book was even prophetic from the very beginning. It was a projected future for our own Earth from the Back to the Future series. The Lady Columba Venus Adventures also talks about the Book of Enoch and the ancient times depicted in Genesis 3 and, you know, written about by Zechariah Stitchin and others. According to the Book of Enoch, in the antediluvian world, about 200 of the watchful angels went rogue, taking for themselves human mates and declaring independence from their home world. And Annabel writes a little bit about that and what she learned about it from the Venusians. Alexander and Annabel have a thing going on, and you could read about that in the book. Annabel also learns about the psychic realms and the world beyond sight and extrasensory powers and so forth, supernatural powers and developing latent powers within us and being able to see beyond the veil with the kind of technology and understanding that that the Venusians have. So that's very, very important as well. I had a friend, we did a lot of research together. It was Andy Reese. He was the psychic reporter for the Weekly World News. We actually wrote a lot of articles together in a book that has been unpublished. I'll probably publish it one of these days. But he showed me. He said he had a psychic telephone, and he showed it to me in his home in Glendale, California, and he said he could talk to people from the other side on it. So I thought that was interesting. And he was also in contact with an entity that he called VORG, which stands for Venusian Observation Ranger. Okay, so a lot of the wonders of the New Age are explored in the book. There's a general consensus among many esoteric traditions that the lotus flower represents the spiritual enlightenment and rebirth into the New Age. This is also a symbol of Venusian enlightenment and illumination. Annabel also learns about various systems in place on other planets. And long before Bernie Sanders ever came up with one of his proposals in the late 1950s, Annabel Krebs wrote about a future belonging to the working class, describing how in a new economic system, workers become stockholders in the companies where they are employed, where they have a 51% control of the shares in the companies that they work for. So that would certainly go a long way in relieving a lot of tension between the classes that we find here on Earth, and helping everybody all around. So Annabelle was writing about family values and family life in the 1950s and early 1960s. And this is a scene from a popular TV show back then, Leave It to Beaver. And Annabelle viewed the emergent family values on Earth through, and she said that that while there were some things good about the values in the 1950s, there were some things that needed to be changed, especially with regard to the status of women. So that's explored in the book. Also, the connection between religion and extraterrestrials, angels and aliens. We see comments by Lady Asteria. She explores these connections intimately, and Annabelle takes really good notes and provides us a greater understanding. This is a vehicle called the Lunar Station 3, which was deployed by the Soviets in their secret space program. So a lot of information, it's all documented and footnoted about the Russians' activity on the moon, and as well as we had additional activity as well. There's one space program for public consumption and another that's a secret military type space program. And Annabelle gained a lot of insight, which she relays to us in that book. So then her return to Earth, the various circumstances, the help that they got along the way from various people, and what life is like on Venus. Annabelle's visit to Venus is in there, and some of the amazing personages that she met in there, and the spiritual significance of all of it. Without going into too much detail, you'd have to read that for yourselves, and I think you will find that highly enlightening, as well as entertaining. So thank you very much for the time that you've taken to preview Lady Columba Venus Revelations with me.
Well, thank you very much, Kaz. That was an incredible presentation, as always.
Thank you, Rob. Much appreciated.
Yeah, we'll do the Flying Saucer Legacy, Venus Rising, Rockets to Venus, Cosmic Rays, Excellent Adventure, and all of them. So I look forward to that. Thank you so much, and check us out, folks, on thepromiserevealed.com. I'm sorry, thepromiserevealedUAT.com. And you can join the Inner Circle. You can have access to all of the Summer Conference 43 meetings. Check out the first slider banner to learn how to use it. A wealth of information there. You're going to get some discounts, including to the next Summer Conference coming up. So I look forward to seeing Ray here again in July. Thank you so much, folks.
Thank you.
All right, Raymond. All right. Bye.
Bye now.
Okay.